Ready? Play.
Hello and welcome to a very exciting episode of Talking Tennis. It's me, Jack Edward from On The Line, and today I'm joined by a very special guest, Craig O'Shaughnessy, strategy coach for the ATP, creator of Brain Game Tennis. Craig, how are you in Denmark, Copenhagen, correct?
Jack, yeah, it's amazing to talk tennis with you. I just got in here this afternoon. I'm speaking to a group of Danish coaches tomorrow. And as I mentioned, it's 4 o'clock and it's dark, and I'm wondering, and it's freezing cold. I'm wondering why people live here. But other than that, it looks like a wonderful place.
Well, we don't have to talk Copenhagen too much. Hopefully the exciting tennis chat about the ATP Finals will warm me up a bit, Craig. We are here first to talk about, we'll talk about Djokovic, of course, winning the title. We'll talk about Ruud getting to the final, Rublev, all the other players throughout. I think the first place, in fact, Craig, if you'd like, is talk a bit about Djokovic's win. 6th title, obviously, for him. Managed to win it for the first time in 7 years, right? 2015, matches Rogers, title streak there of 6 titles. Obviously looking to go one more next year, I'm sure. But for 7 years, went titleless. First things first, I mean, is that a surprising run for you of 7 years for him not to get a title there?
Yeah, it kind of comes and goes a little bit. I've been to all the recent, maybe even 8 or 9 years now. When the ATP Finals were in London, I was there every year, either representing my brain game business or writing analysis pieces for the ATP Tour. Yeah, it is a bit surprising that he had the drought, but boy, was he back. I think one thing we need to put on the table right from the beginning, no Carlos Alcaraz and no Holger Rune, which was the guy that beat him in Paris the week before. And Holger Rune played exactly the right way to defeat Novak by attacking him and taking his time away and coming forward. And it just seems like that victory was not studied by his opponents in Turin, and he kind of had his way with the matches. And even though some of them look close on the scoreboard, you know, you're sitting courtside and you're like, there's just no way this other guy's going to win. He's not doing the right things. He's not putting Novak under enough pressure. He's not coming forward. You know, it's a low bouncing court. It's a fast court. It was officially a medium fast court. But Novak was always going to win that event. Always.
Yeah.
So,
It's an interesting start, Craig. I think the first thing I need to put on the table, by the way, you used to do a bit of strategy work with Novak, right?
3 years, 2017, 2018, 2019. I was, Marion Vida and I were on the coaching team. So I did all of the strategy, all of the analysis of his matches. Every time he played a match, he had a pre-match preview of the opponent and the patterns of play they like to employ. It was also the post-match analysis, and then you group together matches, you group together a year or a month or a surface. And, you know, Novak was really good on understanding that when he's out there on the court, the things that he's doing and likes to do may not always be exactly what is best. And that was a big part of what I did, is like finding the best patterns of play for his game. You know, he's got the world's best backhand, but it became very obvious very quickly that hitting run around forehands is better for him as it is better for everyone in the world. It was a very big part of him winning the final against Casper Ruud, where Novak was in a lot of ad court exchanges because, number one, he likes that, but number two, Casper Ruud really likes that. So if you just go backhand to backhand, it makes it much more of a 50-50 battle. But if Novak's hitting run around forehands, which he gained control of in that final, he's far better off in the long term. You know, you play 100 of those points and Novak's run around forehand is going to take control. There you have it right there. Yeah, and it was a feud. I like that word. It was a backhand to backhand feud.
I read that article, Craig. I really enjoyed it. And It came to mind when I was in this stream with John only yesterday. Of course, lost track of time already. There was a set point, the set point in the first set that Novak was able to convert, and this maybe is a bit of a segue into Ruud's game as well, and you can tell me how much of this you agree with, because Ruud's 2 improvements for the or maybe 3, I suppose you could say, the return for me, block returning, able to serve particularly well now, which has aided him in a hard court, and the backhand, certainly at the US Open, he flattened it out quite a bit more than he used to. In the set point, we saw a serve of his, the first serve, about 2 feet from the sideline, basically. So under pressure, absolutely wanted to get it in, and we saw Novak peppering Ruud's backhand with the inside-out forehand. The inside-out forehand particularly good, obviously, because of the angle you can create on it, stops Ruud from using a sort of, crossover steps to get as far outside the court as possible to get himself a forehand. Right. Would you agree that under pressure, those weaknesses maybe still have a few, or those weaknesses that are now fixed, I guess, maybe still have a few cracks? Is that too unfair to say, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, Casper's done a great job of improving his game and ascending up the world order. He got to number 2. He's played some big finals. But there's a thing is that, did Casper play the way he needed to win that match? That's the key. And you can go out there and he reminds me a lot of David Ferrer. David Ferrer in his heyday and Casper Ruud in his heyday, that would have been a fun match to see those guys really battle it out. I think Casper, in his evolution, he should go back to the Holger-Rune match in Paris and study what Holger did to win the match. And he'll quickly realize that, with a lot of these players, what they do well to win against almost everyone is not what you need to do well to win that final. And you look at Roger for his entire career. What he needed to do to beat everyone was not what he needed to do to beat Rafa. He needed to modify and change, and Casper needed to modify and change more than he did. And the scoreboard 7-5, 6-3 looks good. He can walk away from that, and it wasn't a pasting. But in a lot of ways, that they're in these longer rallies, but we're just waiting for Casper to miss. We're just waiting for Casper to hit a short ball and for Novak to really take control. So if Casper can go and review the tape like Kobe Bryant, just go to Google and type in Kobe Bryant match analysis or basketball analysis. I mean, he was reviewing things such as the positioning of the feet, the leaning of a player, who's talking to who in the timeout. He was going down to the nth degree. And that's what Casper needs to do, and come out of his shell that he does so well against. You could say, Casper, there's 100 guys in the top 100, do whatever you want against 96 of them. But the other 4, no. The other 4, you must adapt. You must change. You must attack more. You must flatten the ball out. You must serve and volley. You must chip and charge. You must do these things that are not normally comfortable with, but it's what's needed to win that match. Pure and simple.
That's a really fascinating perspective on it, Craig. And I think just fleshing out a bit more about what makes Novak somebody who's just so difficult to beat on any surface, obviously, but indoor hard court in particular. I just wanted to talk about the serve for a little bit and how much that's improved over the years, because again, I imagine you'll have a great opinion on this, or a very informed opinion on this. Tennis Podcast posed the question: isn't Djokovic's serve the most improved shot in tennis? They've just left it open like that. That's a fairly large question, but for me, it's over the last 5 years, definitely. It's huge, and it's made him almost unbeatable at Wimbledon. He can just cover himself so well. We look at this tournament, his serve was broken 3 times by Fritz twice, and then I believe it was Tsitsipas once? Not Tsitsipas, Medvedev once, of course, because he served for the match against him 3 times against the other 7 best opponents in the world, Craig. I mean, how much does that tell you?
Well, it's been good for a while. First of all, yes, you're right. Novak's serve is good. Second of all, that court lent itself to players holding more than normal. So that makes Novak, look a little bit better there. One of the things that surprises me so much is that, again, in that 2017, 2018, 2019 period, particularly in the ad court. So I studied Novak's 7 matches at the 2018 US Open when I was working with him. He beat Del Potro in the final there. And I put all of those data points into one spreadsheet. And we looked at him serving first serves in the ad court. And you have down the tee, you have out wide. Naturally, serves are going to go out wide a lot in the ad court. What I've also learned in serving out wide in the ad court is where the backhand return of the right-handed opponent is where the ball comes back a lot. So we looked at that and said, okay, Novak, if you serve wide in the ad, that ball's coming back cross-court to your backhand. You're starting with a serve +1 backhand. That is not as good as starting with a serve +1 forehand. So the discussion was basically, well, Craig, how do I hit more serve +1 forehands? Well, why don't we serve more down the tee? And if you serve more down the tee in the ad, you get more forehand return errors. You get more ball back to your forehand, and the win percentages go up. And then that conversation spilled over to second serves. So during that period, what Novak developed was this hybrid second serve that works particularly well in the ad court, where the opponent is sitting on, say, a 95-mile-an-hour kick serve out wide. They're just basically standing there with the racket back, just put it on my strings. And then Novak's hitting this 105, 110 mile an hour slice second serve down the tee. The opponent's not ready for it. The opponent makes a forehand return error. And Novak just gets out of jail. And he's hitting it as a slice. He's not hitting it as a first serve. He's not hitting it as a second serve. It's a hybrid in between. He's hitting it as a slice so that he's making a ton of them. He's not double folding with it. But opponents, I mean, there's so many times I'm sitting in Turin going, oh my God, he's going to do it right now.
Yeah.
And he does it. And the opponent misses. And I'm like, you're not doing your homework. You're not doing your homework if you don't know that serve's coming right now. So there was too many times that I thought opponents hadn't studied Novak enough.
I mean, I think Novak goes into his opponent's forehand in the ad court more than any other top 10 player. I'm pretty sure I've seen this before. Yeah, it's that's a great way of putting it, Craig. Hybrid serve, because for me, I've seen that serve so many times, and it looks aggressive. You can
use that.
Serve.
I'm not going to charge you for that either. You can use that as much as you want.
Thanks, Craig. Yeah, no royalties on that. 100% hybrid serve is the best way I could have put it.
Yeah.
Djokovic, I think we've covered him in quite a bit of detail there, Craig. I'm going to move us on a little bit, because loads of fascinating stuff there to dissect. Just a bit on a few of the other characters in this play, because Djokovic's season next year, we think it's going to be good. We all know that, of course. You know, he's got loads of good things ahead. Let's talk about some of the other players that we lost by the wayside throughout this tournament. Starting with Andrey Rublev, who made it to the semi-finals, right? And he lost to Casper Ruud there. Just summing up a few of the losses Rublev's had throughout his career without winning a big title. 6 Slam quarterfinals, 2 Masters finals, and now an ATP semi. This week, was it disappointing for Rublev, or was it positive, Craig?
Andrey Rublev throws the toys out of the pram way too much. Way too much. He's a fantastic player. He's a fantastic competitor. But when push comes to shove, was it the Novak match where he just went nuts? I think it was, wasn't it?
Yeah, the 4-1 loss, right?
Yeah. So I was at that match. I watched so many matches in the last couple of weeks. But so you're at 4-5. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, there we go. There we go. You're at 4-5. You're at 30 all. You know, things are good. You've gone ace, and then you get to 40-30 and you lose a long rally. And then this happens, and then you throw your racket on. He threw his racket actually. He lost the point at deuce. Throws the toys out of the pram way too much. Yes, it's exactly right. He lost the point at deuce, and threw his racket. You're at 4-5 deuce, and you've lost a point, and it's a big point in the match. It's a huge point in the match. That's when you need to be at your best mentally, your best emotionally. That's when you need to knuckle down. That's when you can't do these things. And Andrey Rublev has a history of going bananas in big moments, as we see right here, and losing his mind, losing his strategy, losing his way. You know, he's on the way to a great season and a great finish, and possibly even winning this in 3. He beat Medvedev in 3, 7-6 in the third, because he kept his head. But Andrey Rublev quite often doesn't keep his head, and until he can prove to me in a big match, in a big moment such as this, that he can prove that he can stay stable, he needs to spend the entire offseason. They say, Andrey, you know, go to Copenhagen where it gets dark at 3 PM, and just spend a week with a sports psychologist and just chat and talk and chill out and study and look at the times you go nuts and look at the times you're good, and just spend a week with nobody else but the sports psychologist. It would be a great use of his time and a great investment in his career, because I saw it. I knew it was coming. I just knew it was coming, and it came, and I'm like, man, you got to learn. You got to learn that you can't do that in these situations.
Because we all know how hard he works. I think there's a lot of information out there showing us that Rublev works harder than, or works as hard as anybody else in the game, because he absolutely loves the sport. He lives and breathes it, I think, is what Fernando Vicente said about Andrey Rublev. So there's no doubt he'll do anything he can to improve, Craig. So I think you're quite right. I'd agree with that just came up there as well. Francis Tiafoe loss at the US Open this year probably was the most painful for him. That felt like a chance, and straight sets as well. Yeah, for me, it's disappointing, I would say, Craig. That semi-final's great, but Rublev's obviously looking to notch that first big title. So for me, overall, a bit disappointing. Moving on from Rublev and to Tsitsipas, a bit of a segue, actually, because there was something Tsitsipas said this week about Rublev that I would like your thoughts on, I guess, Craig. Did you hear him say he beat Tsitsipas with the few tools he had in his arsenal?
Yeah, I think it's actually a fair comment, because Rublev just plays one way. He likes to bang the ball. He likes to crush forehands. He'll hit backhands. He just comes at you. He's very one-dimensional, and it's got him, into the ATP Finals and into the semifinals, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think what Stefanos was referring to is Stefanos just has more variety. He'll drop shot more. He'll come over more. He'll slice more. He'll change the speeds more. I think the comment was used against Stefanos. I think it's a fair comment based on the different game styles. But man, I mean Stefanos is we're going to send. This is what we're doing in the off season. We're sending Andrey Rublev with his mental coach to Copenhagen. There's nothing else going on except darkness at 3 o'clock, and they just go into a room and talk to each other and lock in, and he'll come out a mental giant.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're sending Stefanos Tsitsipas to Dubai with a ball machine, and he's going to hit. We're going to get a video camera, and we'll live stream it to me in Austin, and I'm going to fix his backhand.
Yeah, there we go.
Until his backhand is fixed.
Yep.
Problem.
Would you agree specifically the backhand return, or is there more problems than that?
Every scenario, particularly the return, but there's rally scenarios, there's floating backhand scenarios, there's rolling when you should hit it, there's not enough down the line. Stefanos is a great competitor. He's got a great forehand. He's a great mover. He's got a great serve. He's unbelievable at net. Backhand's a problem.
Yeah, and to overturn a 9-match losing streak to Novak Djokovic, you'd imagine that's the thing that makes the difference, right? Because it's getting grim for him now.
I don't know if there's any. If I was to rate all the shots for all the players, like you say, Novak serve is a 9.7, whatever. I would think Stefanos's backhand may have the lowest rating of the 8 players that were in London of any shot.
Yeah,
I think.
Yeah, that's brutal, I would say, Craig. But
no, mate, that's not brutal.
It's subjective. Okay, it's subjective.
Real.
Yeah,
That's real.
exactly. But
See, the thing is that, my job is to analyze data. My job is to sit on the side of the court and see what's going on. And it's just say it how it is. It's just what I do. I don't, it may come across as a brutal comment, but for me, it's like, I'm being nice. I'm telling you the truth on what needs to happen. And you just need to thank me for it.
Yeah, I mean, there's no sugarcoating it, right? That's basically what you're saying.
No, you can't. There's millions of dollars. There's millions of dollars on the line. We're not sugarcoating anything.
Yeah. In that vein, out of the 2 players, Rafa and Medvedev, Craig, who do you think we should be more worried about now? If worried at all, because for me, Rafa, a lot of people are worried about him after this tournament, and for me, it's not really a red flag. I think he's been injured. There's the serve's a bit different. I was talking to Gil Gross about this. Not as much heaviness to the serve as usual. You can still put a bit of pace on it, but you can kind of see he's struggling to stretch up to it a bit. With the ab injuries sustained, indoors has never been his favourite surface anyway. Of course, has only won the 1 title there. So for me, it's got to be Medvedev, and I'll elaborate on that a bit, Craig, before I ask for your thoughts. Medvedev obviously had 2 matches this week where he served for the match, one against Novak, one against Steph, and he lost both of those matches in 3rd set tiebreaks. Lost all his matches in 3rd set tiebreaks. He's only ever lost one other match serving for the match, and that was Rafa a couple of years ago, 3 years ago.
I was in that match.
You might remember that one, yeah.
He led 5-1, didn't he? 5-1 in the 3rd.
He served for the match twice, of course. Yeah. Because he also lost that in a 3rd set tiebreak. Anyway, it kind of just is the icing on the cake of a fairly disappointing season for Medvedev. 8 losses in a row now to top 10 players. Break points converted this year has fallen by 5%. I'm sure you'll know, Craig, that's a pretty large.
But he did get to number 1 in the world this year, though.
He did. That's true. So there's
obviously is it fair to say he's had a disappointing year, but he also got to number 1 in the world?
Yeah, well, a lot of those points are sustained from Australian Open final, right, and the US Open last year. So I guess is the Australian Open final loss disappointing, or was getting to the final itself a success? Because you could make an argument for both, right? But there's been a lot of disappointments beside that. Obviously, after he had the hernia and stuff that take him off court for a while. That's fair enough. But there's been double faults, getting distracted. There was the Cincinnati match against Tsitsipas where some fireworks went off, 4 double faults in one game, making the crucial error in the end of that match. The Dimonor match, maybe not as disappointing, but again, double faults creeping up there. And then this week, obviously, just feeling like a real sort of gut punch after all of that. Anyway, all of your thoughts there. Craig, what do you think, Rafa or Medvedev, either?
They'll both be fine. I think it's a positive, much more than a negative, that Medvedev, in order to beat Medvedev, you've got to go the distance. You've got to get to a 3rd set breaker against him, and you got to get lucky. I mean, there's just a lot of luck in those, the end of those matches. And, Medvedev is a couple of points away from possibly winning the whole thing again. So I think, if I'm on Team Medvedev and, we're sitting down analyzing the season and the year, it's like, man, you got to number 1. What it takes to beat you is to go as deep as possible. You had a great season. You had a couple of losses. You had some injuries. You led Rafa 2-0 a break and almost a double break. Great season. Come out swinging next year. Go and have holidays. Go and rejuvenate. You'll be fine. And for Rafa, go and hop on your yacht and do a little fishing, do a little swimming, and just get mentally fresh again. You'll be fine. I don't think there's problems with either of those guys. I think there's other guys that were in Turin have more problems than Medvedev and Who was the other guy we're talking about?
Yeah, but the other guys in the field.
Oh, Nadal.
Or Nadal, Nadal. Yeah.
I've already dismissed them. I've already washed them out of my mind. Those guys are going to be fine. Nothing to worry about.
Yeah, I think that's a fair assessment, right? I mean, the two of them still had decent seasons overall.
Yes.
Understatement for Rafa.
Rafa, my God, what a season.
Yeah, exactly.
And any season you finish number one in the world, I don't care what else happens.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough, Craig. The other two players in the tournament that maybe we've just missed out there, maybe we've skirted over, and you did say maybe there were other players in the tournament that should be more disappointed. I wonder if one of them is Felix Auger-Aliassime, who went into the tournament for me as top three sort of favourites to win the title. Such a good interest.
You had him top three?
Yeah. Underneath Novak and Medvedev, I still rated at that point. I think he was their top three for sure. Because just with his indoor season, I was like, he was so untouchable for a while on serve. If he brings that sort of serve +1 energy into this tournament, he might not be touchable for a while. And then to lose 6-2 in the third to Fritz just felt a little bit disappointing. Thoughts?
I didn't have Felix in the top three, no matter what he did coming in. Those were good lead-up events, and that's what they were. Felix has always had some funky monkey going on with his forehand, and it used to be a lot worse, and he's cleaned it up. And I sat again courtside for 3 of his matches here, and I was very impressed. But there's still too much going on. Felix is an unbelievable. He's like Gael Monfils. He's like tall, skinny. My goodness, leap tall buildings in a single bound kind of athlete, but still wants to get his body too involved in the forehand. Too involved. I think he has a top 3 first serve. I think he's got a normal second serve. I think his backhand is good. I think his forehand sprays still too much, even though it's on the right path. And I think 12 months from now, it'll be even improved. But he doesn't need to jump. It's like as soon as he sees a forehand coming, he's on one of those little backyard round trampolines that are like 3 foot by 3 foot. And he's just like, let me bounce on this thing and wind up and see if I can hit the fence. Just calm down, get off the trampoline. You are so strong. You're so athletic. Just you've got a babble at, for God's sake. Just let the racket come through and let the racket hit the ball so you can control it. Yeah. Novak's not doing that. Novak's not bouncing around like a jelly bean everywhere. So as soon as Felix cleans that up fully, he's doing better, but fully, the big matches are going to be tough for him. They're going to be tough. But I expect him to do that. I expect him to clean it up.
Of course.
And who was the other one we talked about then?
Taylor Fritz, who made it to the semis, of course.
Right. So here, I don't know whether you agree with this or not, but I watched Taylor. I walked by Taylor in the airport this morning in Torino. He's sitting there with a beanie on, eating the biggest jam croissant you've ever seen in your life. I'm like, too good. You need a little break right now. A jam croissant is your island in the sun. I saw him play for about 5 minutes, and I'm like, he could win it all. In fact, after 5 minutes of play, I said he's in the semis for sure. And I thought the draw against Novak, if he hadn't have drawn Novak, he would have won the other semi, and he would have gone to the final. And he may have even he's really about the only player that could have beaten Novak. I'm buying Taylor Fritz right now. I'm all in on Taylor Fritz. His backhand cross court is a joke. The court was perfect for him there. His technique is incredible. He hits it flat and hard, and it just gets on the opponent and pushes them back. His forehand is low and short, but just rips the ball. The racket head acceleration is Rafa-esque, but it's simpler. Rafa's big and winds, which he gets away with on clay, but Taylor's small but fast. His first serve is good. His second serve is good. He moves well. What I also like about Taylor is that he'll get mad for a second and it's gone. He loves to turn around to Mike Russell in the box and just have this one-way conversation with Mikey and just say, somebody will hit a great serve. It's like, oh, that was a good serve. Like, why are you telling Mike Russell that?
Yeah, I remember the ATP Cup one year, Craig. I don't know if you saw it that year. It might have been the pandemic year, so 2021, just post to that. And we saw the changeovers and we could hear everything Taylor was saying. And he was just talking the whole time to the coach there. Just couldn't stop talking about technique and what the other... He gets very technical on court, right? I see him doing a lot of sort of this and that to the coach, so... Yeah,
but the way he reacts is completely different than Rublev. Completely different. Taylor will say something positive or even sometimes negative, but it's gone. In 2 seconds, it's gone. He lets it go. You look at his face, it's gone blank. He's already past that. He's back to the next point. Taylor, all the American, Francis Tiafoe has had a great year. Taylor Fritz has had a great year. Brooksby's had a great year. There's 7 that I'm missing right now, but Taylor's done an excellent job. And what happens? This is key for next year, is that these guys lose well before they win.
Yeah.
And I remember Wawrinka losing well in Madrid to Nadal before he started to really win big matches. And when we look at Taylor Fritz, he lost well at the ATP Finals. And I expect him to do even better. He's going to have a better 2023 than he did 2022, and he's going to mow some guys over.
Yeah. So, Ruud, Tsitsipas, Medvedev, Rafa, Fritz. Who's having the biggest 2023?
Say them again.
Tsitsipas, Ruud, Medvedev, Nadal, Fritz. There they all are. There we go.
And Novak's. Oh, okay. So
Novak's not a question. We all think Novak's going to have a great 2023, of course.
Have you got Rune in there?
Oh, yeah, put Rune in there. If you think Rune is the biggest shout, Craig.
He is what he did in Paris. Yeah. What he's done for a while now, but what he did in Paris, defeating Novak. My goodness, it was Alcaraz-esque. It was so aggressive. The serving was good. The attacking was good. Every time he hit a good ball, he would suck up to the baseline and inside the baseline and go, is this a chance for me to come forward and finish? And sometimes it was, and all of a sudden he's swarming the net. Sometimes it's not. I think Rune definitely belongs on that list there. I mean, I think they're all going to be there and about. Alcaraz, great. I think Rafa's going to be tougher. I think Casper Ruud is going to be tougher. I think it's going to be a tougher year for him. He's going to have to. Yeah. He's going to have to improve. I think Fritz is going to be better. Rublev's going to be tougher. Medvedev's going to be tougher. Felix is going to rise. Novak is going to be like a god. Mm-hmm. Who's the one number 10?
Harkach, right?
Oh, yeah. Okay. I couldn't quite. Tough for me to see. I can see Taylor Fritz replacing Harkach with all the big trophies. So, but Rune, Alcaraz, Fritz, Felix, and then Medvedev's always going to be there. Tsitsipas is going to be there. I think you've got Casper and Andrey and Herbert. Herbert are going to have to really lift, and Novak's just, again, he's a level above everyone and has been for some time. So it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I like that. I'm hearing Novak top tier, Alcaraz, Rune.
Novak sits on his own right now on the top tier. Even for me, even at the moment, even above Alcaraz, Novak sits top tier. And then you go down one level, and on that level, you've got Alcaraz, and then probably drop a level, And then you've got a bunch of guys such as Rune, such as Fritz, such as Tsitsipas, such as Medvedev, and then probably drop a level down to Casper and to Andrey and to Felix and Hubert and maybe even a couple of other guys there.
Cool. Okay, I'm conscious, Craig, we could talk about this all day, probably. So I'll try and wrap us up, as we've already went a little bit over time. Just thank you very much, of course, Craig, for coming on. Seriously,
it's dark here in Copenhagen. I got nothing to do. 5:40 in the afternoon.
I'm probably just saving you from going to sleep at 5:40. Exactly, Craig. Yeah,
don't worry. I love going to bed early. No, I have no problem with that.
Craig O'Shaughnessy, thank you very much for coming on talking tennis. Really, really much appreciated. Hope to talk to you again soon.
Cheers. Bye.